Welcome everyone on behalf of your summer. I'm Enzo Bolletino. I work with the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative, and we've had a really wonderful collaboration around cultural agents for the past several years. At the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative, as the name suggests, we work on disasters, emergencies, humanitarian crises around the world, applying research and educational initiatives to address those scenarios or situations. One of the areas where we didn't have particular strength or programs around the arts, and so this was a nice opportunity to combine forces with Doris and to explore the way in which arts can be used in various stages of crisis, both to provide people that are experiencing a crisis with tools in which they have agency in their own experience, and also as a tool in recovery, as a way of building disaster resilience. So I won't say any more than that, but we'll turn it over to Doris and appreciate continuing our collaboration.
Thank you so much, Enzo. Inspired by Enzo and our collaboration with the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative and with other partners at the School of Public Health and the medical school, we have reformatted our general course on cultural agents to address issues of global health, very specific. So our cultural agents course this year is called RX, Arts for Global Health. And thanks to that title, I got to meet an important cultural agent, Elena, tell me your last name again, Beta, who does Brazilian soap operas around health issues. I saw one excellent piece on HIV treatment and prevention. And since we have our guest of honor today, who is a very distinguished artist activist who has an important project in HIV prevention and treatment, I thought it was a lovely segue to also introduce you to Lynn. But it's my great honor and pleasure to share a visit of Jay Critchley with you. Jay is an inspired artist, a tireless scholar, a very effective activist, and he knows that all those elements go together. And he doesn't stop. Every idea, every new hunch sends him on some very productive tangent, and you have to be watching his website every other day to see where he's going now. Right now, he is in a residency program, which is larger than a couple of days, a residency program in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is a program, which I hope we'll talk about. But I don't want to take any more time. I want to share this time with you, having Jay address us, sing with us, activate us, and inspire us not only with optimism and enthusiasm, but so much intelligence that he is contagious. So thank you so much, Jay, for being with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Can the lights be turned down a little bit? Not totally, because I have to see what I'm doing, but that's good. That's better. Thank you. Thank you, Doris. Thank you all for coming. I have a presentation that I put together. My presentation is called Affirmative Reaction, and you can figure out what that means after you see what I'll be showing you. So we're going to start with a little song. Where is it? Safari. We had it set up, of course, but where's Safari on here?
It was right above Fireflies, above Fireflies.
It should be, oh, here we go, okay. So I'd like you to please sing along. There we go. Ain't no one, not a clown, holed up in my home, like a hound dog in a pound, addicted to a bone. Don't be cruel to planets through. Baby, I'm fighting mad, 'cause I'm sucking down all these meds. Ain't as many you guessed, hope to see you before I'm dead. Don't be cruel to planets through. There are no more turtle doves. Baby, let's drive our car to the heaven of love. Ooh, let's start that shopping spree. I'm loving those solar rays. Sandville honeybee. Let's drill in a dirty ways. Don't be cruel to the planets through. I know the stars, the world is falling apart. Let's fess up to the Lord. We're approaching Judgment Day. Heaven's on the board. Let's fight in a brand new way. Don't be cruel to planets too. There are no more turtle doves. Baby, let's drive our car to the heaven above. Don't be cruel to planets too. Don't be cruel to planets through. There are no more turtle doves. Baby, let's drive our car to the heaven above. Okay. This is me in a past life, just to let you know that that was really me singing it. As an artist and as an activist, there's questions that I ask myself that I kind of put together when I was thinking about why do I do what I do? I mean, why, how come me? And one of the questions is, who's pulling the strings? Who's controlling and dominating the conversation, the visual culture, the aesthetics? Who's nurturing the health of the planet and our communities, and who isn't? And where are the critical points of intervention? And who are our communities? What communities are we part of? So there's different issues, obviously, affecting the planet, affecting all of us. Ice, animals, what's going on, our interaction with the ecosystem. This is my little interaction with the ecosystem, the ice in the pond. Is there going to be any ice left? This is my little friends out on the ice in Provincetown. This is how I play, and ideas come to happen. Here's another group of. Also, another big issue is pathogens. We mentioned that in the class. What's the pathogen of the month? West Nile virus, mad cow disease, I call it mad cow disease. Encephalitis, swine flu, avian flu, SARS, Ebola, plague, yellow fever. Which one are we looking at? Which month are we on here? And then, of course, petroleum, fossil fuels. I mean, we all know the incredible effect this has had, not just on our ocean, the temperature, the air, but also on urban sprawl and the you know, the incredible extreme weather, which Walt Disney certainly had a handle on with Mickey Mouse years ago. By the way, he's frozen, so I don't know if we have any ice left. He's going to be resurrected again. Cars, I just mentioned automobiles. They play a big role in my work, you'll see. You know, rising sea levels, what's happening with that in the oceans. And who owns the ocean? Is the ocean public space, or is it become a commodification? You know, we're commodifying things. Meat, red meat, how does that affect the rainforests? You know, everyone in China is starting to eat red meat. The American diet, you know, we've got industrial farming, GE food, genetically emphasized food that we're dealing with. Methane. All those cows, you know, they create a lot of methane. So I'm pondering, like, where do I find the answers to these problems? There's a mystery to them. And lo and behold, next door to me, the house is being torn down next door, and I go in Provincetown, everything's being gentrified, and I discover these images on the wall before they tear the house down. These are nicotine ghost prints. Now, the people that lived in the house were chain smokers 24/7, so this is what happened. And so when they remove their precious photos, we see these images. And so there's something about them that connects me with something mysterious. Another thing is the bird droppings on the beach. I started noticing the bird droppings. And I thought, well, these are kind of like tea leaves, aren't they? Are they telling me something? You know, there's something in the grains of sand, in the way, and this one particularly is a little ominous. It looks, you know, looks like a bomb. Is there some message here? One of my early interventions was a washed up humpback whale on the beach on Race Point, and I'm reading the Bible here you know, we all know that whales are becoming, the right whale is becoming distinct in particular. And I started, you know, playing with BP oil, you know, should I just end it now? Should I just, like, you know, but, you know, I thought I had a few more years left in me. Now, guns is another thing. It isn't just about the killing that happens here, it's about all the guns that we send overseas, like we're one of the biggest exporter of guns. This is a health issue. Also, we all know that the CDC does not allow research into gun violence in the United States. We were talking a little bit about food. I did an intervention in Provincetown. Burger King wanted to come to Provincetown, little old Provincetown, and I dressed up as this fictional herb character. We had women for Whoppers, and we went to the hearing with all the lawyers. I mean, they had a whole bevy of lawyers from Burger King at a license hearing, and I did this speech about how we want a Burger King in every hamlet in town in the world, and you know, it was pretty wild. Anyway, we filed a legal case, and we kept them out of town. Do you all remember the peace dividend after the Cold War? You know, there was a peace dividend, right? Where is it? What happened to it? Well, this was a proposal I did, taking the missiles from Russia and the United States and creating a circular peace monument out of the missiles. One thing I do, I'll talk a little bit more later, is I create corporations. A lot of my work is about looking at the role of corporations in society and what kind of a role and influence they have. This one is called the IRS. Obviously, it's not the one you're thinking of. It's the International Rerouters Society. And it's about reclaiming our connection to the earth. And it's a ritual I do every year on January 7th after the 12 days of stockpiling called Christmas. And so I bring people together and we meet on the beach and it's a purging. It's a purging that takes place. Every year has a different theme. Snowstorm, rain, it doesn't matter. It's always on the 7th at sunset. And the tree gets burned. And every year there's a different theme. And this year it was trolling corptocracy. Would you hold that up? So after each of the 10 commandments, I'd like you to repeat Gunilork Court Cot Trop. Can everyone say that? Gunilork Car Cot Proc. Okay. Okay. So the Lord appeared to Moses in the form of a burning bush and gave him the 10 commandments of genetically disabled sea ice. Commandment number 1, hormone-disrupted dark matter is the Lord thy God, and thou shalt not have gluten-free, missile-carrying climate refugees shadow banking before me. Commandment number 2, thou shalt not cyber attack tipped wages branded as weaponized fossil fuel derivative drought. Commandment number 3, thou shalt not ride hail free-floating hostility emissions, airstriking mature deficit disordered compound growth. So I was raised in Connecticut, a large family of 8 brothers and sisters, the Critchley Family sextet. Here we are. And I was considered one of the girls. We would go on stage and say, here are the Critchley girls. And of course, we prayed all the time. We either sang or prayed. And hey, it gave me a lot of material. And here is like an invasion of a manger in a public square. This was the first guerrilla theater that I was in. My family actually snuck in the middle of the night and stuck us in there. This gives you a sense of where my head is coming from. My father was a secretary for General Motors for 42 years, the same office, the same desk, the same typewriter. He always wore a tie, and he's skinning a muskrat because he was a trapper and he raised minks. And here's my early political involvement. And I spent a summer in the Salvation Army in East London back in the 69 when it was a tough place. And that was a great initiation for me coming out of a very white Catholic college. My backyard, I created believe it or not, that's a hole in the ground. That's my septic theater. It's a theater in the ground in my backyard, which I marketed as a septic summer rental unit because this is 1997 when nobody was talking about the lack of affordable housing in Provincetown. By the way, I was supposed to switch this hat back. Okay. So it started out as a septic summer rental unit, and then it became a theater. This is a septic opera Heaven and Hell. This is Donna Roll, who runs the Longy School of Music Opera Department next door here. So I had whole seasons of performances, and again, this is about gentrification in the town, the affluence of people moving in, class issues. I even proposed a historic septic district connecting all the abandoned septic tanks in town, just like in Disney World, where all the characters are below ground, and then they appear and then they disappear. So that was the theme park I created for Provincetown. It was called P-Town Incorporated, formerly Provincetown. You'll swear you were really there, and it's all about the changes in the town. And this was a wooden nickel I had made that I was passing around. This was a lot of these projects are like multi-year projects. They take many forms. This is part of it. There was a fire in one of the buildings, and I put Cinderellas Castle there. And the visitor processing center was, again, it was like in order to come to town, you had to show your credit rating, the purchases you've made on your credit card, what your education was. It was for the affluent. So you had to be processed. And actually, we thought of taking stool samples too, but I'm not sure. So I mentioned corporations. These are some of the logos that I set up for all the different projects, and we'll be talking about some of them. But again, it was about looking at the role, and of course we all know now with Citizens United, the Supreme Court case about corporate, as a citizenship, it's gone way beyond what I was thinking about 25 years ago. I had a show recently that went to Florida, actually, where I met Doris, called J. Critchley Incorporated, and this is a symbol of the beige motel in Truro, which on Cape Cod, that was being demolished, and I asked if I could turn it into an art installation called the Beige Motel, and so this is one of the images from that. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about my response to HIV and AIDS. In Provincetown, as you may know, it's a very, very gay-friendly. There's a lot of gay people there, and AIDS really had a huge impact on the town. This was the first public AIDS healing ritual in the country. It was called Immunity Mandala, a community ritual in 1983. And it was inspired by, some friends of mine were starting to get sick, but also the media. And again, a lot of my projects relate to what's going on in the media. The media was showing empty beaches in Provincetown. People didn't want to come to Provincetown because they thought if they touched someone, they'd get HIV or AIDS. So it had an economic impact on the town. So this was sort of a ritual in the fall to reclaim the spirit of the town, which is about accepting all people to our shores. I created a logo that was used in the beginning for the first AIDS support group in Provincetown. It's a combination of lambda, which is a gay symbol, and of the peace sign. So I kind of integrated the two. I had mentioned automobiles. This was the first series of projects, public projects that I did in the early 80s. It was a series of cars in the parking lot. It was called Just Visiting for the Weekend. It's an sand-encrusted car. It was all about, again, it was about the effect of fossil fuels, post-World War II travel, highway and gentrification and urban sprawl. There was a lot of publicity about this project. This second year, actually, was I did a car filled with sand, so I called it a fulfilling summer. And then Ron and Nancy were the headliners of the second summer. Ron and Nancy in the front seat. This is a Pietà from the dashboard. This was a car, a mummified car. I got very into the whole way that the Egyptians talked about death and rebirth and afterlife. So this is a mummified car in an abandoned mausoleum in Providence, Rhode Island. And then I also did a car in New York. This is another mummified car. In this project, I took the organs of the car, like the way the Egyptians did. They took the organs out, wrapped them, put them back in the body. So I had actually taken out the engine and all the different parts and wrapped them up, put them back in the car. These are recycled plastic shopping bags that were woven into this. It's called Deep Bones. And you saw the image of me holding the BP oil. This is from that. Another auto-related project was the Big Dig in Boston, which you know is the largest highway project in U.S. history, $20-something billion. I called it the Big Twig. And as you can see, the shape of the Big Dig is in the shape of a tree. The red, that's the tunnel on the right to Logan and Airport. So I called it the Big Twig, and I went down underground. I was given permission. In fact, I was told I couldn't go in, but then I called the governor and my senator and everything. Said, I want to go in there. I got to record. I want to make a recording. And I brought in singers and artists and people to come in, and we created a CD called the Big Twig Tunnel Tapes. And it was and so there was a whole series of projects that I did with this. One was to talk about how to mitigate the 250,000 cars that were going through there. Would be to purchase so many acres of trees so that they could act as carbon sinks. I proposed to the Big Dig that they spend some of their $20 billion on purchasing land to mitigate and this is one of the magazine covers. And again, it's interesting how all these issues interrelate, because these were the covers of the major news magazines, and it was SARS. I changed the S to a C. So to me, like these scare, all the scare about these pathogens was in a way kind of what's going on now with what's going on in the politics now, where you've got all this drama up here, but the real issues are happening under here. And so cars, how it spreads, where it came from. Cars, what did the new age of epidemics. And then, of course, the image of using tie-string surgical masks, a whole project I did called Masquerade Ball. And then it's incredible what the flag can do to you when it decides it's going to come out. Like, see, this is like with a fan behind it. It's like going to attack you. Is it going to attack you or defend you? It's hard to say. And of course, a self-portrait, I couldn't help it. We're ready for the next round of the sign. Okay. Commandment number 4, thou shalt keep holy, trolling affirmative reaction, chillaxing, lurking, haptic, gravitational waves. Commandment number 5, honor thy father and thy mother, click and bait. Commandment number 6, thou shalt not kill, debt-resistant mindfulness, ambushing bigly immigrant hormone debt-based grenade launchers. Commandment number 7, thou shalt not commit cyber hooligan gels and ooze wealth, gravity assisting portfolios of artisanal tweep saviorisms. So, that was going to happen there. Okay, that's a rerouter's image. Another corporation I set up was the Nuclear Recycling Consultants. Again, it's based on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and this is a project that's been going on for 25 years. It continues. The whole nuclear thing is such a major issue in the news now. The idea was that it would be, we wouldn't pay anything for nuclear power. Atoms for Peace. Remember that? I had a proposal for 3 Mile Island, historic nuclear park and planned community. As you can see, we've got the Radiation Restaurant at the top, and we've got the Meltdown Mall. Now, I submitted this proposal to the Pennsylvania Historic Commission to create this as a historic site. They actually did reply and said, we're sorry, this doesn't fit within the print. But the other issue that, and I've done this with other projects as well, is it's about time. It's about, the historic regulations say that nothing is historic until it's 50 years. Well, time has speeded up so quickly with what's going on. One of my arguments was, even though this may not be 50 years old, this is historic because things are being built and torn down and built and torn down long before 50 years are over. I took a tour of abandoned nuclear sites. This is in Phipps Bend, Tennessee. I'm proposing the world's first nuclear resort community in Phipps Bend, and you can see I'm in the base of an unfinished cooling tower, which was had an incredible echo sound in it. And I always bring my Bible with me. This is a reading of the Bible in a nuclear cooling tower. And of course, they let me in. I had my tie on. I was a CEO of the Nuclear Recycling Consultants. They treated me like gold. Not anymore, I'm sure. I'd be a terrorist. And then at Penn State, I created a nuclear cooling tower made out of bales of hay, which was then burned in a ceremony. It was the only time they had a fire on campus that wasn't associated with football. And a billboard campaign. I proposed before the Seabrook plant was opened that we recognize our folly and create a National Nuclear Monument and Energy Research Institute at Seabrook. And I had a proposal to create the world of the nuclear resort community overlooking Hampton Harbor. And if there was a meltdown, there was a roll down lead window treatments. So, and I actually, I put an ad in the paper in Exeter, New Hampshire, be prepared for the worst and the best of comfort. And they actually, I swear to God, the real estate agents called me and they said, you have to come up. We want to make some money on this. And I thought they were joking, and I was like, I can't, but I had no choice, so I went up. And I gave them my spiel, and they all they gave me their cards, and they're like, yeah, we think this is a great idea. Let's talk about those louver lead window treatments. Now, Tacky is another corporation. I started collecting plastic tampon applicators on the beach in 1979. They floated up from Boston's sewage system, and they're everywhere. Before Boston created its outfall pipe for the region of Boston. So this is Tampon Application Creative Clubs International. And it's about stopping the invasion of these plastic applicators that are, animals are eating, fish are eating, and it's affecting the ocean. It's also made from petroleum. And it's interesting because I didn't know what they were at first. I had 6 sisters in a house with 1 bathroom, and I never saw a tampon applicator. So, I was collecting them, and someone said, do you know what they are? And I started making sculpture. I started making sculpture with them, and Bella Abzug, who is a famous congresswoman from New York, she was modeling the hat I made. This group called Women's Group in Toronto asked me to create this hat. So she was, and my ceremonial necklace, and then I created Miss Tampon Liberty of 3,000 applicators. This was for the centennial of the Statue of Liberty. And it was about give me your poor, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore, Ezra Lazarus's poem. So it was about the refuse of your teeming shore. It used to be the immigrants, but now it's the plastic and the garbage that's floating around. And this was an installation piece. There's 3,000 applicators. And I sponsored legislation here in Boston. People can sponsor, individuals in Massachusetts can sponsor legislation to ban the sale and manufacture of, quote, non-biodegradable feminine hygiene products. All the tampon corporations were there at this hearing and, lobbying. So the Tampon Twins showed up. They just came dressed as the Tampon Twins. And they tried to kick me out of the State House, but when the policeman came up to me and saw what I was wearing, he went like, he's like, you gotta leave. I'm like, what did I do? He's like, he was speechless. He didn't know. And I tell you, the sound of the rustling of that gown in the State House, you can't imagine. Music. Tacky Town I created on a beach in New Jersey in the New York City area. made from garbage. And you can see some of the Tacky family, and I have a Tacky family that comes around. And then for the 100th anniversary of the Pilgrim Monument, I created the Pilgrim Tampon Ument. And this was, I used a historic postcard, and they would not sell this in the Pilgrim Monument gift shop. They said it was, that we got a long way to go. But I figured on the back how many menstrual cycles it was for 100 years. And on the back it says how many menstrual cycles, 100 years worth of the centennial. And then, of course, me doing my Miss Tampon Liberty song. I'm Miss Tampon Liberty, still yearning to be free. This was at the opening of the outfall pipe in Massachusetts Bay in 1999. All the towns, and I don't know if you know, in Boston created a regional sewage system, and there's a 9.5-mile outfall pipe that goes into the middle of Cape Cod Bay, and it's not tertiarily treated, so that it's changing the ecology of Cape Cod Bay very slowly. So the moment that they turned the spigot on in Boston, I had this protest event on Race Point by the water. And here's one of the Tampon family, a Tacky family, visiting with me at the 3 Mile Island. And now I'd like to talk a little more about HIV/AIDS. This is a major project of mine. The Old Glory Condom Corporation was formed in 1989 at MIT. It was a show that was about politics and what was going on in the world. And earlier that year, Texas versus Johnson was a Supreme Court case that allowed the burning of the flag. It was very controversial, and so all of the members of the U.S. Congress and the Senate decided that they wanted to push through an amendment that would not allow the desecration of the flag, and that it was something that was not part of free speech. So I thought, well, the government's not responding to HIV, but they're responding to patriotism. So, hey, these two belong together. Old Glory Condom Corporation, worn with pride countrywide, never flown at half-mast. So here I am promoting it. And then one of the projects that I'm really happy with that I think had a real effect. By the way, this was a real corporation with stakeholders, shareholders. The condoms are distributed around the world, but one campaign we did was Latex is for Lovers, because at the time a lot of people were using lambskin condoms, and lambskin does not prevent the transfer of HIV. People didn't know that. So we had this whole campaign. Newsweek picked it up. This was the display box that was sent around. We had T-shirts and also with condom pockets in the sleeves, worn with pride countrywide. We had a Long May It Wave advertising promotional campaign. We're recruiting people to join the public-private partnership that I had asked President Bush to initiate against HIV at the time. We had a Safer Sex calendar. People Magazine did a piece. Ironically, this is at Camel Rock in Santa Fe. I was in Santa Fe at the time, and now I'm back at Santa Fe. Bumper stickers, Make Love Not War, and then it became a textbook legal case for lawyers, because I had a lawyer from the Center for Constitutional Rights in New York, David Cole, who's a well-known constitutional lawyer. He's now head of the ACLU legal division. So part of my strategy was to apply for a trademark, to force the government to deal with HIV publicly. So that was part of the project, was the trademark application. And of course, the government came through in flying colors. They said it was immoral and scandalous to associate the flag with sex. even though my lawyer found 1,000 cases where the flag was used to sell furniture and to sell vacuum cleaners and everything else. We eventually won because they didn't want, they basically didn't want us to go to court, to civil court. We would have overturned that statute, because how do you determine what is a community standard and what is immoral and scandalous? I mean, this is a question that crosses all legal issues. The Washington Post did a piece. I also did a project where I went around and I collected used condoms around the city, around Provincetown. People sent me used condoms. The whole idea was that let's honor people who are practicing safer sex. So this is evidence. So I created an archive of used condoms, and so people were sending me condoms. You know, I put this project out, and it was another way to talk about like a sort of a sex positive kind of thing, because there was a lot of negative issues about sex at the time, and still are. I created the condomized living. This was a condom covered couch, colored condoms, and also, you know, the candy, you know, candy and sex relate. Patriotism, it all connects. And I even had another condom company, Over the Rainbow Rubbers, which was worn with Toto pride. That was kind of a project more than a company, but and I actually had a rubber dam in there, so it was a little package. I also did a lot of sculpture, you know, and of course I liked how the latex, when it's exposed to light, it disintegrates. We've got on the right, we've got JFK, we've got Jesus, and then we've got Elvis on the left side. I guess I have a thing about Elvis. I did a project with middle school kids in Hartford, Connecticut, and basically this is in the mid-90s. I gave throwaway cameras to the kids and condoms, and they went home and they took photos of themselves and their parents and their friends holding condoms. And they talked about HIV and all that, and then we created this poster called Condemnation. This is at a time, this really dates me, but Connecticut used to be, the abbreviation for Connecticut used to be CONN. No, now it's CT. So this project might not have worked now. Condemnation. And the Department of Public Health printed these posters and distributed them around the state. And another project, this is more recently, this is maybe 6-7 years ago out in San Francisco. This is the Transamerica building, and this is part of a project that artists working with corporate structures. So I decided I was going to create a model out of Old Glory Condoms with, that was a model of the Transamerica building, which is an international global corporation. And of course, you know, they bit right into it. And I had a ritual ceremony of the unveiling of it. And so I sent out a press release, and just to tell you a little bit of the strategy, because a lot of the work is about the strategy. I sent a press release out to the media saying that I was coming to town and I was creating this model, and it was about corporations' responsibility to the world and what is Transamerica doing. Well, they called up Transamerica. Transamerica says he has no right to use that image, and if he doesn't stop doing it, we could sue him, and there's no public right. So they never did, but you know, this is an example of like how to get your message out. And then I began to link the environment with AIDS and HIV. And so we have Day Without, there used to be Day Without Art, which is now World AIDS Day, December 1st. Why not a day without oil? And why not try to figure out a way to connect the two? So I figured out that how many barrels of oil are produced or consumed each year in the United States. How many, we each consume 3 gallons of oil. This was back 10 years, whatever. and how much money we spend on oil-related a day, and then asking people to donate that money to an AIDS organization or a nonprofit organization of their choice. Now here's the Blessed Virgin Rubber Goddess, which a project I did with Lydia Eccles. Here's Lydia, thank you for coming. This project has to do with, obviously, recreation of the Blessed Virgin, the goddess roots of the, Mary the Virgin, and it's empowering her as a goddess of the rainforest. And it's about protecting the rainforest, and we know what grows in the rainforest, rubber trees. So, you know, the rainforests are being destroyed, where, you know, for a lot of reasons, like other reasons we talked about, like for producing cattle and meat, but also the rubber trees. So this was about the immaculate protection of the rainforest. And this took many forms, candles, installations. It was at the ICA in Boston, and a poster was up in the T station that used to be the old ICA on Boylston Street? Yeah. It was torn down, and there was this whole thing. We had a whole, Lydia and I had a whole, like, it took a year to get retribution for them to even admit that they took the poster down, to actually, you know, recognize what had happened, because someone decided they didn't like it. And it did create a lot of controversy. The Archdiocese of Boston was outraged with this, you know, editorial. And then I couldn't refuse the connection between the Ebola virus and the Enola Gay dropping of the atomic bomb, this was the anniversary year, and I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, it was the 50th anniversary. So I brought out the Blessed Virgin Rubber Goddess, and she appeared to me, actually, and created the Ebola atomic virus. And if you can read, O mystical Rose of Eden, protect us of the rainforest in our fear and anguish at environmental ruination and infestation of the Ebola virus. 50 years after the dropping of the atomic bomb by the Enola Gay, we beseech thee, restore the precious immune system of the earth. Protect us with the radiant rubber mantle, that thou might embrace and touch all creatures with renewed immunity. O protectors of the rainforest, console us all, our familiar and our families and our lovers, with the healing grace. Concentrate on your desires. Amen. Commandment number 8. Thou shalt not steal. Supremacist, hacked, pacemakers, coral bleaching, displaced, data bumped, cancellation of dead income. Commandment number 9, thou shalt not bear false witness against migrating, genetically disabled sea ice, fraudstering, rectal hydration of tech neck turpitude. Commandment number 10, thou shalt not covet an embarrassed sky toilet trained by a fashy, loss-averse, self-salvation money class. Let it be known that the devils and sinners who deceive us shall be cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beasts and false prophets are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Here we have Martucket Island, and it's a combination of Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket and Martucket. It's a third eye. And it's about the magic of creating this fictional island. It was a proposal I made to the Boston Society of Architects. My sister Ann, by the way, who was here, was at that event. Thank you for coming, and you were too. I had a little song I did, you know, the song Bally High. Bally High, well, in Martucket Isle. It was a whole thing, but it was a response to a challenge to create, to respond to this energy farm, wind farm that was being proposed. And so they gave us an award, and it's sort of a mix of the old energy and the new energy. We've got nuclear plants, and of course it's a theme park. I mean, I love theme parks. So we've got the Captain Ahab Fitness Center, and we've got Jaws. It was one of those things that dropped, you know, those like, and the ExxonMobil Pirate Museum, you know, so this is, again, being the way I am and how I operate, I submitted the proposal to the Army Corps of Engineers, who were not happy about it. So again, I alerted the media that this proposal was sent. They called the Army Corps of Engineers, and actually, and I did not plan this, it was submitted April 1st. I mean, I knew it was April 1st, but they told the reporter that if this is a fake proposal, that I could be charged fined $10,000 or put in jail for several years if they could prove that it was a fake proposal. Now, I know I was one of the inventors of fake news, but nothing happened. But again, it just brought out the absurdity of, like, this proposal is fake compared to what? What's fake? Is war fake? Is bombing fake? I mean, what is fake? So again, that's kind of part of the strategy. And this is one of the articles about regulators, the article about it. And even the Cape Cod Times, which sometimes doesn't know what to do with me, said even this time Critchley went too far, which to me is the best thing they could have said. I did want to mention the Provincetown Swim for Life and Paddler Flotilla. This is an event that I've been running for 30 years. We've raised $4.5 million for AIDS, women's health in the community. It's a swim across Provincetown Harbor, and there are like 400 swimmers. And it's a huge community event. It's the event of the year. Pretty much a lot of people think of that. It's right after Labor Day. So this was our 30th year this year. Another project related to the climate change and is mobile warming, go with the flow. Now, we all know that ExxonMobil has been lying to the public about its research about the effects of carbon emissions on the atmosphere for years. In fact, there's legal cases. They're being challenged as similar to the tobacco companies about hiding the research and telling people everything's fine. So I was in Florida where I met Doris at the Florida Atlantic University, and I became familiar with Governor Scott, who's the governor of Florida. He's a denialist of climate change. And so I came up with the idea of, he's basically, mobile warming is creating, ExxonMobil's creating climate change. Let's just call it mobile warming. Isn't that just more truthful? So this is an image with the US seal of the United States in it. I created a proposal and I sent it to Governor Scott. This is called Miami Beige Island of Abandoned Luxury, and this is what would remain in Miami Beach after the sea level rise. It's the beachfront of Miami Beach, which is the high point of Miami Beach. So this is an encrusted, like, sort of abandoned luxury island that I'm proposing that they should plan for. And you can see the mobile warming corporate seal on the bottom. Then I used the seal of the state of Florida inside mobile warming. And this is what set off a whole legal issue with the governor. It was told that I had no right. Let me go to, the letter says that I must cease and desist to using this state seal, and that he's demanding that I stop using the state seal. I'm like, oh, this is great, thank you. So I found myself a lawyer through the Coalition Against Censorship, and wrote a letter back. The lawyer, very long letter with a lot of legalese in it, saying, you know, this guy has the right, you know, we don't know what you're talking about. He's got a legal right to use this, and you drop your cease and desist letter. So that's an ongoing thing. I made T-shirts that I sent him one. I found out he was a size large. I sent him a T-shirt, and this is an ongoing project. And this is another. The beauty of this logo is that I can drop in any seal. This is the seal of the European Union. One of the images from the European Union, a project that I'm working on. And this was on the cover of the Art New England. It was another part of the mobile warming project. You know, this looks like the big screen, but actually it's called Mobile Yawning. This was a mobile yawning project. Does everyone feel like yawning? Come on. The idea, well, the words got me, okay? It was just too close to mobile warming, mobile yawning, right? So believe it or not, when you yawn, it cools your brain. This has been scientifically shown. This is not fake news. So I figured if everyone in the world yawned, we would cool the planet. Doesn't that make sense? Okay. So, wait a minute. So, O breaker of bones, O breaker of bones, O swallower of shades, I have not slain people. O breaker of bones, I have not stolen food. O he who is blood, who came forth from the place of slaughter, I have not done grain profiteering. We are embalmers who see the chaos, but we honor your mobile soul. We honor the temple of millions of years, where the earth devours that which has come forth from thee. Monster, beast, lie down, glide away. Have we lost our desire for eternity? Have we lost our desire for eternity? Thank you.
Can we ask you questions?
Of course.
Okay, let's take at least 10, 15 minutes, and then we can be more casual. Yeah, go ahead.
I was curious as to why mobile didn't tell you to stop. Is it just that their corporate lawyers know better?
Bring it on. I think when it reaches a certain level of corporativeness, you know, I think that they don't bother unless it affects their bottom line. You know, when you start making money off of the logo, then that brings it to a different place. Yeah.
When I think of projects, which I used to in a previous life, which I don't anymore, thank God, they usually have like beginnings and ends and some degree of success or failure. How do you measure all these projects and how do you keep track of them? It's insane. I don't know how you do all this stuff. Are they really not projects?
Well, I was good at saying the rosary. You know, 10 Hail Marys, a pause, Our Father, 10 more Hail Marys. This helps, you know. Well, you know, all our lives are complex. It just depends on what you choose to keep track of. And what do we choose to keep track of? You know, Twitter feeds? I mean, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's that daunting to me.
I didn't understand one word of those 10 commandments. Is that something that I should be concerned about myself?
You should.
I should.
You have to- I think,
Surrounded by all this intelligence
I
here at
think-
Harvard, and I didn't understand one word.
I think therapy would be good.
Will you explain it to me afterwards?
Maybe someone else has a, Lydia.
I just want, maybe you could comment on this, but one of the things I find most striking about you as an artist of your stature is that you're rooted in a very particular geographical place, and that you're responding specifically and concretely to events in your community, and that to me is in big contrast with the globalized artist who just is like going to different places and kind of doing public work in communities they aren't part of. So can you just comment something about you staying connected with Provincetown?
Well, I've lived in Provincetown for 40 years, pretty much in the same house. So I guess that's not common for many people. I guess especially people that can choose to move around, or people that are forced to move around, like refugees. But yeah, I think that it's the sand. It's the and you know, Provincetown's a sand dune. It's not glacially created. It's created by the ocean. So it's different than the rest. So there's something about creating stability on something that's not stable, like the sand is constantly moving. I think yes, it's about place. It's about materiality of the place. I mean, I also work with fish skins, and I work, you know, Christmas trees and sand and other objects connected to the place. The ocean, of course, is part of the theater of my work. I don't know. I never had anywhere else I wanted to go. People say, "Are you going to move somewhere? You're going to go somewhere?" Like, well, yeah. When I feel like I want to go somewhere else, or actually move, you know, leave. It's the kind of place that you can't leave. It's kind of one of those places.
But I think the question is your relationship to your work by digging in, by developing relationships with other people, rather than parachuting in and
Yeah.
doing, you know, some brilliant work and leaving.
Yes, yes. It is about creating community and creating a familiarity with issues below the surface of people. That you can also be intimately part of a community, and also be very separate from the community, because people respect your as an artist. People respect what you do, even if they have no idea what you're doing. I don't know. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, how about a shout out for a Swim for Life participant?
Please.
For how many years? Come on.
My sister has done the Swim for Life for how many? 15? So any questions or thoughts about any of the projects, or any ways that they, you know?
I'm very interested in the way you use litigation to raise dust and then awareness. You know, when I tell people, I start telling people, for example, about your old glory, Condom Corporation. They say, well, didn't he get in trouble for that? I said, yeah, he made trouble. You know, like that, this idea of making trouble by going after an unjust restriction, law, whatever. So I'm very interested in the way you use law. But going back to the question about the effect, how you measure success and failure. Are you interested, do you follow sequels to a successful campaign in court? Are there more people using condoms? Or do the health outcomes change if you track them? I mean, I think that this is a horizon that lots of people interested in the arts are focused on today, right? Like, it used to be very uncool to talk about practical outcomes. And I think that there are a lot of artists today who are asking questions about practical
That's a great question. I think one very specific thing I kind of alluded to was with the Latex is for Lovers campaign. I'm sure that I saved a couple lives. I'm pretty positive I've saved a couple lives just with that campaign.
Save one life more.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I mean, that was a very, I think, important intervention. And it got a lot of publicity, you know, I mean, it was promoted. As far as the plastic tampon applicators, I think that it helped with the awareness. You know, again, that's a very complex issue, but you know, there are alternatives to plastic, you know, applicators, and I think there's a lot more awareness about that. You don't need to, you know, use these plastic things. I mean, the reason they were created so women won't have to touch themselves. I mean, you know, I mean, it was crazy. So that's one thing. It's hard to judge a lot. I mean, you could say, well, all the people that come to the re-rooter ceremony, they come away and they get re-inspired about what they do, what they're doing in the community, issues that they think about. I know for me, like, you know, these rituals like are essential to my well-being. That is a question that needs more reflection.
Yeah, no, I think it's a horizon for lots of us, and you've already shown a path. I think we need to go down that path.
But in response to your issue about the legal issue, yeah, you know, my palette is all of the above. I mean, legal, you know, media, materiality. But for instance, with the Elvis piece, you know, I mean, I was using his voice and someone else's video. That's my voice in there, but I mean, I was still, you know, appropriating. And I went to a lawyer through the Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, which everyone should know about. And he gave me a thing about that thick, a response about, yes, you could be sued, yes, they could come after you, but the chances are that they won't because of this reason, and why would they bother, and it's not for sale, and all these things. But, so, to me, it's a very exciting.
Have you ever been sued? I mean, without, you know, have you ever been sued? I don't need to.
No, I haven't. No, I've been threatened, but no. But to me, that's a very important element of my work, is on that edge, like with the engineer, you know, the Martucket Island piece, and a couple of other projects I haven't mentioned.
I'm curious about your strategy with corporations and sort of that subversive tactic. How does that work pulling these corporations together and having venture capital for that and being able to market yourself as a CEO and getting sort of legitimacy for these corporations to enter into these interesting spaces?
Well, you know, when you put a tie on, it changes everything, and a certain demeanor. You know, it's a performance, like everything. Well, I don't know, you know, well, specifically Old Glory Condom Corporation was a legal corporation. Now, the reason it didn't, to me, it fully succeeded because it was about creating a political and intervening in the media to bring the issue and forcing the government. But as a business, it did not work because the flag, if we imprinted the flag on the condom would not be FDA approved condom because it would affect the strength of the rubber. So people were expecting, when they opened the packages, to see the flag on the condom, and there was either singly red, white, or blue. And so I think that the repeat sales, that was one of the reasons why it didn't succeed as a business.
And in terms of sort of pulling these corporations together, how do you get people to take interest
you just announce yourself. That you don't ask permission. You are president of the Nuclear Recycling Consultants. Sir, I would like, this is Jay Critchley. I would like, I'm president of the Recycling Consultants. Oh, Mr. Critchley, oh, thank you for calling us. My team of us would like to come and visit the abandoned nuclear, Phipps Bend nuclear power site. And we'd like to come with a team of videographers, and we'd like to record it because we're looking at how we can recycle, the nuclear fuel cycle and the nuclear. We're creating a nuclear heritage trail. And, oh yes, Mr. Critchley, when would you like to come? It's that simple. Now, I mean, again, times have changed. Like, it's not, now everyone's like, thinks you're like a terrorist, so like you may have to show an ID or something. Or
You could make those
yeah, you can make up an ID or create a badge or something that, shows. Does that kind of? Yeah.
Hey Jay, did I understand that some of your artist collaborators are here, like that do the graphics?
Well, I mentioned Lydia.
Yeah.
Lydia Eccles, who's an artist from Boston.
And Martucket, the island. I thought you indicated no.
Oh no, no. The person the graphic designer over there, is not here. No.
Okay. And then the other thing is, you skipped over. Well, in 2015, you did the big installation at the Provincetown Art Association. That was like a retrospective of all these things. I mean, because to skim over everything was like, oh my God, overwhelming. But you didn't mention that you had that installed.
Right. I had a survey show at the Provincetown Art Association Museum that went to Florida Atlantic University 2 years ago, right? And you saw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a question, but it was a great opportunity to walk through, maybe 2,000 square foot space and see everything from 1985 to, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Thanks. Any other comments or thoughts or?
Well, we're invited to stay for a while and have a glass of wine and celebrate.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to thank Doris for organizing this, and she.
Especially Ellen, who has been holding us in this rich mix between arts and public health, which is a very exciting area that I'm just coming into because of friends. And really appreciating how your spunk and creativity open up opportunities that nobody else saw. So thank you to all of you who came. Please stay, let's have a glass of wine, let's get to know each other, and help me thank Jay.